Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now, in this video, we're gonna talk about an infrastructure as a code tool known as Terraform. Alright, so this is also gonna be a series on how to write Terraform codes to create infrastructure on the cloud. Okay. Now, in today's video, we're looking at how to write your first Terraform code to provision an EC2 instance. In the AWS Management Console, you can easily click Launch Instance, and then you give it a name, you select the AMI, select the instance type, keeper, and stuff like this, and then after everything, you launch instance. Okay, we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to write a code so that when we deploy the code, the instance will automatically be created right here, so that it will be running by just implementing the code from Terraform. Okay. All right. So I have my AWS Management Console here on the left, and I have my local terminal here on the right. This terminal is not connected to the AWS currently. Okay. This is my local host. So before you even start, make sure that you have AWS CLI, which is the AWS command line, installed. Okay. Now you can easily get the code for installing that online. Just Google AWS CLI and you get the commands. I have it installed already, so I can do AWS version, and this is my AWS CLI version installed. Okay. Another thing is to check to be sure that Terraform is installed. So for that, I will check it using Terraform help, which will give you the commands for Terraform and how to run them. Okay, so you have Terraform init, validate, plan, etc. You can see that AWS CLI and Terraform are both installed on my local host. If it's not, if you need help installing Terraform, I have a video in this channel that shows you how to easily install it on a system. So you can look at that to install your Terraform and then install the AWS CLI as well. Okay. Now with that out of the way, I want to create a new user, okay, that I will use to deploy my Terraform instance. Okay, and so for that, I need to go to IAM, go into IAM, and go to users. So you see that I have a user WK. I'm gonna create a new user, and I'm gonna call this Terra. Okay, the username is Terra. So next, and now attach policy directly. I want to create an EC2 instance, so I want to search EC2, and now attach EC2 full access, then go next. Okay, and then I'll click create user. Alright, so my user is created right here. It's Terra. Next, I'll click on it. You can see that I do not have access key. So you see access key 1, create access key, because I don't have it yet. Or if you go to security credential and look at access keys, it's not there. That means that the user Terra currently has no communication with AWS because you don't have access key created and configured. Okay, so I will create access key. Since I'll be working from my local host on my terminal, select CLI or command line interface. I understand the above recommendation. Next. Now for a tag, I'll call this Terra access key. Create access key. And so access key is created. This is the access key and this is the security key. Alright, so I can easily download the file here. So I will click download. So my access key is downloaded, and this is in the downloads folder. Okay. Alright, so you can click done. Alright, so I've done my initial setup. Now let's go back to EC2. Okay, with the access key and the secret key is created, I can now configure AWS CLI from my local host, okay, using those two keys. And so I'll come to my local host terminal and type AWS configure, and it will ask for my access key ID. Copy your access key ID, paste it, and then you copy your secret key ID as well, paste it, and for the region, we are currently working in US East 1, so I'm gonna use US East 1. The format, I will leave it blank. And so we've now configured the access keys. So officially, my local host is able to communicate with the cloud AWS platform via my access key for the user Terra. Next thing we're gonna do is to now go to the Terraform code. Now Terraform, you write a file called main.tf, okay, with your file editor or text editor. Okay, so vi main.tf, I to insert, and now you can start typing your Terraform codes in here. The first thing you need to do is so in Terraform there are blocks. Okay, so we have the Terraform block, and then we have the provider block, and then we have another block known as the resource block. The Terraform block, which is the first block you see here, contains the Terraform settings, which includes providers Terraform will use to provision your infrastructure. And then for each provider, the source attributes defines host names, namespaces, provider type, etc. For our case, type required providers. Okay, now on the required providers, we are using AWS Cloud, and so type AWS. Okay, and then under AWS we specify the source. Terraform installs providers from the Terraform registry. Okay, so for AWS, our source is given by registry.terraform.io/HashiCorp/AWS. So this is our source. So we're using Terraform, which is from the mother company HashiCorp, to create an AWS instance. But this is lengthy, so the short form of this is basically deleting all that and leaving it as HashiCorp /AWS, and it's still the same exact link. Okay, so we'll keep it like this. Next thing is to provide a version. All right, so the version, let's use the version 4.16. All right, so that is for the Terraform block. Now, of course, this stuff, you don't always have to provide them. If you don't provide anything here, Terraform uses the default settings for this particular block. Okay. All right. Next is the provider. Now, currently, you know our provider is AWS, and so provider, we specify AWS. All right. And so in AWS, we need to specify the region that we are working in. Region, remember when we created a DIAM user, we used US East 1. So you have to be in the same region, US East 1. Okay, in quotes, and that is for the provider. Now the resource is where you actually create the infrastructure that you're trying to create. Okay. All right. So we are trying to create AWS EC2 instance. Now in Terraform, let's go to the Terraform website. AWS instance. Okay. Looking for resource type AWS instance. Okay, so here is a simple AWS instance type. Okay, how to write a simple one. This is our first instance, so you're keeping it simple. So the resource name for EC2 instance is AWS underscore instance. All right, so you specify that AWS underscore instance. Okay, and then you open another quotation marks and you specify the name that you want to give it. Let's call it Terra EC2. Okay, so our instance has the name Terra EC2. Good. Next, we need to specify AMI. Okay, we need to specify the instance type. We need to specify, let's say, tags. There are several other stuff that you can specify, so let's keep it a bit simple for now. Okay, AMI. Back to the AWS console. Remember when you click launch instance and you get here, let's create an Amazon Linux instance. Okay, so this is Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. All right, so we can grab this AMI ID right here, copy it. If you want to create that instance, if you want to create Ubuntu, you can click on Ubuntu, and then if you need this, you copy this. Okay, so let's just use Amazon Linux. So Amazon Linux, and then I'm gonna copy this. Now always make sure that you are still in the same region. Okay, because the AMI changes from region to region, the AMI ID. Okay, all right, so I'll paste this here, right? And then for the instance type, this is where you select the instance type. I'm just going to use T2 micro. So I have T2 in quotation, T2 dot micro. And then for the tags, I'll specify tag okay, we don't see the tag here. I think we need to go next before you can see the tag. Tag normally has it's a keeper, so it has a name, okay, and then it has, you specify some name. So let's say example Terra EC2. You can add some more stuff. Remember, whenever you create an EC2 instance, you attach a key pair, right? So actually, let me add it. Let me add a key pair. And so the key pair is gonna specify a name, so key name, and I'm gonna use a key pair that I've already created here. I will use Ubuntu 24 key. So Ubuntu 24 key. This will basically attach this key to this new instance. Okay. Another thing that we use when we create an EC2 instance is to attach a security group. Okay. Now, because we are doing everything from the terminal, you have to find a security group that you've already created that you can use. Okay. So for that, you can come to the left panel, go to security groups. I have so many security groups here that I can use. If you like to, you can create a new. So I'll create a new security group, call it Terra EC2 security group SG. And then for the inbound rules, I'll give it access from SSH port 22, and that should be enough for the inbound. Outbound, I'll leave it as it is, default, and then I'll create security group. This is from my IP. Create security group. Okay, so on the documentation from Terraform for AWS EC2, you see we have VPC security group IDs. Okay, so you can easily attach it, a security group to it as VPC security group underscore IDs equals and then the security group that we just created, we can copy the security group ID, then paste it in here. We're gonna save and close this. Okay. Now, of course, you can imagine that I'm not using Visual Studio Code. I'm using my local Mac terminal, so the code doesn't look as nice. Okay, let me initialize Terraform first. So Terraform init. Okay, so you see Terraform has successfully been initialized. Good. And then I need to make the code look a little nicer. Okay, so for that, I'll do Terraform format. When I cut main.tf, you see that now the code is being structured nicely compared to what you saw earlier. Okay, it looks more nicer than earlier. Next is to be sure that everything that you've typed in the Terraform script works, or it's it's done, everything is done correctly. Okay, and for that you do Terraform validate. Okay, so success, the configuration is valid, so everything we've typed in here is valid. Good. Next, let me clear the screen and go up again. If it's valid, the next command you would want to run is Terraform plan. Now this will show you a procedure of how the resource will be created from beginning to the end. Okay, so you see Terraform is gonna perform the following actions. Now the resource action is create, and the resources that it will be creating is an EC2 instance called this Terra EC2 containing this stuff. Some of them I didn't specify, so it's false. Okay, AMI I specified it, so you see the AMI. Get password data, I didn't give it anything, so it's false. The instance type, I gave it as T2 micro. I gave it a key. Certain things I did not provide, so it's false. Right. Now if you look at this, the plan shows that you're going to create one resource mainly, which is the EC2 instance. We are not making any change at this moment, and we are not destroying any resource at this moment. Okay, so that is Terraform plan. Now it's always best to run the Terraform plan before you apply any Terraform infrastructure. Okay, now you can do Terraform apply to actually apply the changes. So Terraform apply, and then you press enter, and this should start creating your Terraform resources. Now it's asking for, do you want to confirm these actions? You want to create it, so you type yes, you press enter. It should start creating your instance at this point. So let's go back to the instances, EC2, and it started creating. This may take some time, give it some time. Now you can see that apply has completed, and there is one resource added, none destroyed or none changed. So we should be able to see our EC2 instance here. Good. Now remember, in our code, let me clear this. If I cut main.tf, I gave this tag to our instance. Example Terra EC2. That's exactly this. Okay, and you can see that it's running, and it's T2 micro as we specified right here. Okay, it's still initializing. All right, I gave it a region of US East 1. I didn't specify the availability zone, but US East 1 could be US East 1 A, B, C, or D, but default it gave it 1B, but it's still US East 1. Okay, and then a lot of, remember the security group, we created this security group ID, all right, but the security group name was Terra EC2C SG security group, right? And the key pair, remember that is Ubuntu 24 key, which is right here. All right, the launch date, the platform is Amazon Linux. Before we leave, you need to also destroy the resources that you've created. Okay, and for that you type Terraform destroy so that you don't get charged. So, and then press enter, and this will start deleting your instance. So you see minus everywhere for the resources that it created. When we were creating it, it was plus, green colored pluses. Okay, so this shows instance will be destroyed, and it's asking for a value here if we really want to destroy all the resources. So plan is 0 to add, 0 to change, 1 to destroy. So you type yes to confirm the destruction, and it started destroying. Okay, so destroy is complete, and the resources destroyed is only one, which is the EC2 instance with the name example EC2, example Terra EC2. So if you refresh here, you can see that it's terminated. So destroying an instance is the same as terminating it. Okay. Alright. Okay, so that would be all for this video. Please give a like, subscribe, and then comment on this video.